Hi everyone, welcome to the demo showcase of the latest version of the MSSQL extension. Today we're going to share all the updates on the 1.40 version of the extension, and with me I have Tauseef today who is going to help us introduce some of the features that he has been driving for a while. Go ahead, Tauseef.
Thanks, Carlos. Yeah, so I have some cool new features here in this latest version of the MS SQL extension. As you can see over here, I have the latest version of the MS SQL extension up and running. So this is our change log where you can see all of the most recent features that are released in the extension uh, in this version. So over here, you'll see that I have the ADS Migration Toolkit. So what I'm going to share here is I'm going to go over the ADS Migration Toolkit, which now also includes the Keymap extension, which is going to allow you to import your ADS specific key mappings to the extension as well. On top of that, I'm also going to show some of the new database management tools, which allow you to create a new database, rename, and drop all from the Object Explorer using nothing but dialogues. I am also going to show you the flat file import and database backup and restore. So we can start off with the ADS Migration Toolkit. So there's two different ways you can access this in the extension. The first way is you can, use it. You can access from the changelog, or you can use the control palette. So for this demo, I am going to use the changelog here. So I'm going to select try it, and from there I have my dialog open here. So if I scroll to the bottom, you will probably be familiar with the connection groups and connections import, which was available in the last release. So this has stayed the same. You can, select your connection groups from ADS that you want to import over. You can select your specific connections. You can switch your account, all these sort of things. If I scroll up though, the new part is I now can also import my ADS settings as well as my key bindings. So in order to import your specific custom settings, you just have to check off the import settings here. And if I click on view settings, it'll actually show for my scenario, I have two custom settings here that I can view and then import over. From there, I also can install the database management Keymap extension. I have it pre-installed here on my extension, but you can simply come here, hit install, and it will automatically import over these ADS specific key bindings. So if I scroll to the bottom here, I can see that these are the ADS specific key mappings. I can import these over by installing this extension. So, and the way I can demonstrate that is if I over to my control palette here, I am actually going to type open keyboard shortcuts. And from here, I'm actually going to type database management. And when I do that, you can see that I have these key mappings here that are already pre-installed and ready to use here in the MS SQL extension. And I can also use this exact settings to customize these further if I would like to do that. So that's how the key mappings works. I'm going to go back to my dialog here, and everything looks good to me. It looks right. I have everything checked off and ready to import. So I am going to simply hit import selections, and you'll see that it gives me a breakdown of the two settings and the connections that I've imported. I can close this here. And on the left-hand side, you'll see that it imported over these connection groups, and they're ready for me to connect with and start using. So that's the ADS Migration Toolkit. The next thing I want to show everyone, the next feature is the database management tools. So I am going to go over here to my local container, and I have my databases folder here. So I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to enter the Create Database dialog. From here, I am going to give my new database that I'm creating a name. So I am going to use, for the sake of a demo, I'm going to call it Demo Database 3. I can select the owner. I also have some advanced options here. If I'm interested, I can come here and play around with that. I can also generate a script if I'd like to, but I am going to just hit create because I am okay with everything here. And on the left-hand side, you'll see that I have my Demo Database 3 ready to use. I can also rename straight from here. So I'm going to hit rename database. I will just call it something simple. So I'm just going to say 3.1, press enter. It'll reload automatically and it'll show me my changed name. I can also drop this directly from here. So I'm going to come back here and I will just hit drop database. enter this dialog. And once it loads in, I can drop active connections, delete any backup and restore history, and I will just hit drop. And you'll see that it was able to drop that demo database 3.1 that I had there. So that's how easy it is to now create, rename, and drop all straight from the Object Explorer and with a simple right click. The next thing I want to show everyone is the flat file import. So I am going to go here and I'm going to hit import flat file. From here, it'll ask me if, what database do I want this table to be created in. I am going to choose demo database 2, which is what I initially right clicked off of. And then from there, I'm going to browse and select a file. And something to keep in mind is that the file should be a CSV or text file. So I have one saved on my local computer, and it's my bike product CSV. So this is a CSV file that has some sample bike product data that I'll use to import as a table. So from there, I will just hit next, and it'll give me a preview of the table that I'm looking to use. So everything's good to me here. I'm going to hit next. And from here, I can actually modify some of the columns. I can change data types. I can change the column names, select my primary key, allow nulls, all those sort of things. To me, everything looks good here. So I am going to go ahead and hit import data. From there, it'll take a couple seconds and you'll see that it says file imported successfully. I'm just going to hit finish to close this dialog. I am going to go over here, demo database 2. And when I go in tables, you'll see that my new table labeled bike products is now here. So it works very quick and it's very easy to now use your CSV and text files and import through that. What I'm going to do next, I'm actually going to create a backup and then I'm going to restore it. So I am going to go over to demo database 2 here. I'm going to enter database backup. So in this dialog, I can rename my backup. I can select my backup type. So I can choose between either a full, differential, or transaction log backup. I am going to go to the bottom here and you'll see that I have two options for backup location. The first option is to save to disk, which will save the backup locally. And the second option is to save to URL. So if I have a storage account and a blob container ready and good to go, I can actually save this directly to a URL and then reuse that later to restore as well. For this demo, I'm going to stick with saving to my local. And so over here, I'm going to come down and I can choose my folder path. I can rename the backup if I'd like to. And I can even choose an existing backup if I want to do that. So for the sake of this demo, I'm going to just go ahead and hit backup. And it'll take a couple seconds. You'll see that my backup was successful. So X that out. And then now let's restore this to a database. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a new database here. And I am going to call it demo database 3 again. And I'm going to go ahead and create that. And once it's ready, I will enter backup. I'll enter database restore. So I'm going to enter the new dialog. You'll see that I have 3 different locations that I can choose from when I'm restoring. I can choose either a database to restore from, a backup file, or a URL. So I'm going to choose a backup file so that I can use the file that I just backed up in the previous dialog. So I'm going to go into Browse Files. I'm going to scroll down, and I can see my previous backup right here. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to make sure that I hit the backup set that I want to restore from. And one thing to keep in mind is I'm going to go in my advanced settings and I'm going to make sure I check off this, which will close any existing connections and it'll make sure that my restore happens without any issue. So I check that off in my settings and I hit database restore. And you'll see it says 100% successful. So my restore was successful and I now was able to complete a backup and restore in a matter of seconds. So that's the features that I want to show. And I'll turn it back to you, Carlos. I know that you also have a really, really cool and highly anticipated feature that you want to show everyone. So handing it back over to you.
That was very cool to see, but have a question for you. I noticed that when you were working on the Keymap, you listed a few shortcuts. There was one that grabbed my attention. It was F5 because we received a lot of feedback on that. So what does that mean? Like I can map different shortcuts to F5 now, or can you clarify that for me?
Right. So the cool thing about the new ADS Migration Toolkit is that it now comes with that Keymap extension. So once I have that Keymap extension installed, it'll automatically import over all of those ADS specific key mappings and shortcuts. So things like F5 will automatically be imported over. It'll save in my settings. And then from there, I can use it whenever I want. I can hit F5 and it should automatically work for me once I have that imported over. So it's very easy to use. Once I install the extension, I'll have access to all of those key mappings immediately after installing.
Nice. So that means that any user that installed that optional extension, they will be able to run the queries just by pressing F5 now.
Yes, of course.
Okay, that's very cool. All right, so let me jump into the couple of features that I want to show everyone today. So let me start by sharing my screen. Okay, so from here, from the changelog, you see that we have uh, all the different features we are including as part of this release. So in case you want to learn more, you can click on watch demo or learn more to get to the documentation. I'm going to focus on global search for a moment. So global search is nothing than searching for database objects on your database. So we hear your feedback. We know this is a very handy tool. So we introduced that tool as part of this release. So if you do a right click over a database, you see that you have plenty of options now. And those are the options that Tauseef covered in his demo. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use the search option. So with a search database objects, as the name implies, I can search on a specific object on my database. So if I want to, let's say, focus on searching for, I have thousands of objects, like there are tables, and I want to find something like products, for example, just by typing here the name, I can search that object really quick. What happens if you have objects that are created in a different schema? You have the option here that you can filter by schema, for example. So products is part of the sales LT schema. So get my resource back. So very straightforward and easy to use. But what happens if you want to search objects in a different database? So right here, you probably notice that there is a drop down here that says database. So if I select a different database from here, I get to see all the different objects from my library database. So very simple, very straightforward, very powerful, but there is more. This is probably my favorite part of this feature, that we have this column that is called actions. And from here, if I press this button or ellipsis, I can script out the object. So I can script as create, as drop, and alter. In the case of a store procedure, I can execute. But let's say I want to, for some reason, from here, I want to edit my data. You can. So this is super cool because like from this entry point, you can modify the data for your table, you can modify the structure of your table, and you can script the table if you want. So yeah, really excited to introduce this feature. Really powerful. So yeah, let us know your feedback. So now let's switch gears and let me talk about the other feature that I will be covering today, and that is Query Profiler. So this is the top requested, most voted request feature in our extension or in a repo. And so, yeah, we listened to your feedback and we are finally introducing Query Profiler here. So for this demo, I have a special case that I'm trying to do my best here to cover some of the bases that happens in the real world. So let's say I have an app here and I'm connected already to my AdventureWorks LT 2022 database. So I'm going to simulate that my application is doing well, is running, it's like operating as normal. But then I have this inventory uh, application that introduces a lot of noise to my database. It pushes more activity, and I have users that are probably running queries like ad hoc. So you see that the latency right now is jumping and it's red. So it wasn't that bad before, so it's really bad right now. And as a developer, I need to figure out what's going on. And somebody is like asking me from my users saying, "Hey, Carlos, like the application is really slow. We can't work. There is something going on. I have this specific process that should take like less than 1 second, but it's like getting hung, and I don't know what's going on." So right here, so you can see we have a bottleneck. We have a problem. So that's when uh, query profiler can be really helpful for developers. So let's go ahead and take a look. So the way you start Profiler is by doing a right click over your instance. In this case, this environment is completely local, so I'm running in a container. These applications running locally, so it's all good. So I'm going to select Launch Query Profiler from here. And with that, I get to see the different options I have as part of the uh, profiler templates. So you see that I have four options. Right now, I see the on-prem, like the standard. There is another template that is specialized on T-SQL statement, another for logs, and another that will focus on duration. Right now, the on-prem standard for me, it's okay. I need to give it a name. So let's go with Adventure Works here, app. That's fine. And with that, we get to see our profiler. So let's move this window around. And right now you see that I am getting a lot of activity. Uh, I have a lot of activity going on with this database. So yeah, it's like probably in real life, this is going to be too much. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I have this app that has a specific run ID here that allows me to do some kind of tracking if I want. I want to identify what's going on. But I also, if I use this I also have plenty of options in these columns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the session because yeah, probably this is enough for me. I have plenty of data. And now I'm going to apply a few filters. So right now, the first one is application name. So I'm going to use application name because I know I have plenty of like applications, users connecting here, but I want to focus on something specifically. I want to focus on the retail web app. So I'm going to select this, and with that, the filter gets applied to this data set that I have here on the screen. And you can see that it's super easy to keep track of your filters and disable your filters if you want. So we try to introduce a new experience here that allows you to have more control over what you see on Profiler. Another thing, so this is scenario I was talking about, I know that there is a performance issue. I know that there is some latency. I introduced this problem on purpose while creating my demo. And what I did was this. Let's focus on looking at the duration column. And this duration column has like operators that allows me to do like more advanced filters. So equal, different. So I'm going to go with greater than or greater than equal. And I have this number. This number right here means that I'm looking for queries that are taking more than 4 seconds to complete. And again, this is on purpose because this is a demo. This is a control environment. But just applying that filter, you can see that I found something very interesting here. So the way I built this app was that I'm introducing a delay every if I'm holding every transaction for 4 seconds. So after the transaction is done, the next transaction will come up and it's going to create a bottleneck. So that was an easy way for me to apply the filters, identify the queries. So right here, you see that I got my query. This is super interesting because I had the text, I can copy, I can open an editor. But if you remember, when I show you this, I have this run ID. So run ID has this number, this combination of number and letters, and right here is part of my statement. So if I, for some reason, I delete these filters, and then I use the text data, and then I apply something like contains, and I search by this ID, what I get to see is the same result, but probably a little bit more focused, right? So yeah, that's super interesting. That's a use case on Profiler. I would say like very common. But what happens after like I know there's a problem here. I know that the query is taking more than 4 seconds. What can I do next? So I was like, okay, I can save this or export to CSV. And after I export to CSV, I can have it here on VS Code. And without leaving VS Code and without being an expert on database tuning, I can use something like GitHub Copilot. Let me open that for a second. I can use something like GitHub Copilot and pass these right here, this CSV um, that I save on the previous step, pass this as a context, and then use the GitHub Copilot integration with the MSSQL extension um, use the integration between the MSSQL extension and GitHub Copilot to assist me understanding what is going on. So right here, you see that I'm saying, yeah, I'm using this connection called GitHub Copilot. I'm using the Where to Works database using the MSSQL tools. Please connect. Help me analyze these trace or these query profiler data. Help me finding missing indexes, give me recommendations. So right here you see the process that started to connecting, starting to get the connection details, review the content, and then what it happened was super interesting because GitHub Copilot analyzed the data, identified the objects, and then did a comparison. And the comparison is very accurate. Right here you see that it's telling me right here it's telling me that, yeah, your queries are super slow. There is some queries that are taking more than 4 seconds. Yes, I know that for sure because I did that on purpose. That is a slow injection that is not helping. But also it's saying, hey, there is another very bad query that has very bad practices here. And again, this is on purpose. I need to do this for demo purposes. In real life, probably you will find some scenarios like this, and you probably don't know. But using these tools, you get your answers really quick. And what is very interesting here is that I didn't have to be an expert on in database tuning. I didn't have to be an expert on on these on what's going on with my application. Just by using these tools without leaving VS Code, I got my answers right away. So yes, that's I guess what I have. So let me bring back to see if here on screen. So yeah, that's super excited, as I mentioned, to bring all these new capabilities into MSSQL extension. I guess if you don't have anything else to see, that's all from us, right?
Yep.
All right. So thank you, everyone. See you next time.